Hey, Friend Church D coming at you once again. Thank you for tuning into What Does It Take to Win? I hope you enjoyed episode 40 last week. We're actually on episode 41 right now. I was going to take a brief hiatus, but, I decided to come back because I want to share a little bit more with you, of something that I believe would be beneficial. So we're going to do that today. But before we jump into that, of course, I want to just give you the rundown of a lot of the services that I offer and give you the opportunity to just connect with me. So if you click the link in the description, it's going to take you to my link tree. And there you'll be able to access all of my content. You'll be able to access my discography. You can check out some of my albums and singles and even my EP that I put out. I put out a single by the name of Don't Quit, an album by the name of Something's Missing, an EP by the name of The Big Reveal, a single by the name of The Vision, and a full-length album by the name of The Cactus, Bare Minimum 2.0. So you can access all of that just by clicking the link in the description. I also offer instrumentals and beats. So there should be like a section that says Get Beats or Lease Beats, and you'll be able to access that. There's over 150 instrumentals that you can choose from. So whether you're a podcaster like myself, if you heard that little jingle / intro that started off on the beginning, and you'd say, hey, I'd like something like that for my podcast, or you're a videographer, you produce a lot of content and you just need some music to play in the background. Or if, say, you're a rapper, a singer, or another producer that's looking for beats, I got you covered, and you can just go ahead and lease beats. If you also like exclusive rights to it, you can go ahead and send me a quick message and we can talk about pricing for exclusive rights. We can go from there. I also offer a 7-week virtual piano course. So if you're looking to learn how to play piano or even take your piano playing to the next level, you can go ahead and enroll in my 7-week virtual piano course, and we'll meet weekly to just go over what you've learned. And also I could show you some nice tips and tricks on how to enhance your playing live, or if you want to record and be a studio musician, you could do that as well. So just connect with me. There's plenty that I have to offer. Also, if you are looking to give me a donation, there's also a section for that. I'm not really asking for that, but I just want to open the door just in case you feel as though that this podcast has been very helpful and beneficial to you, and you say, hey, I'd like to just give you a nice donation. You can do that. There's information for my Cash App just by clicking the link in the description. Also, you can connect with me by finding me on Facebook at Church D, at Church D's Productions, or on Instagram at Church D's Productions. I tend to post a lot of updates on those 3 pages concerning, music, podcasting, etc., piano lessons. And again, if you want to just send me a message or connect with me there, you can do so. So I will be on the lookout. I hope to hear from you. You can offer some suggestions for topics that you'd like to hear me discuss on this podcast, and maybe I can offer you some sound advice. So let's connect. Okay, so now let's jump into the topic of the hour, or the 15 minutes like I like to say. This one, it's sort of piggybacking off of the last episode, basically talking about being able to say no, you don't always have to. So this one is entitled, Does It Really Matter? I'll say it one more time. Does it really matter? Now, mental health seems to be at the forefront of the conversation these days, right? Pretty much anywhere you turn, you can just be walking, shopping. Somebody's probably going to mention something about mental health. That's not a bad thing at all. If we're going to ensure that we're mentally healthy, we first must separate what's important from what's trivial, meaning what's important, what's unimportant. And this is going to help us to protect our peace, keep our minds clear and sharp, and remain actually physically healthy. I'm pretty sure that at this stage, we all are aware of the physical, unhealthy effects that stress has on our bodies. But here's a quick refresher, here's a reminder of some of the things that stress does to our bodies before we jump into our 3 points. So here's what stress does. Stress, and of course I found this just by Googling it. You can do the same thing as well. That's my works cited. So stress, it actually causes aches and pains. It causes chest pain, or a feeling like your heart is racing. Stress can also cause exhaustion. Stress causes trouble sleeping. I find that interesting. Stress can either tire you out or keep you up at night, which is terrible. Stress causes headaches, dizziness, or shaking. Stress causes high blood pressure. Now, there's a lot of Americans and non-Americans, for that matter, that deal with high blood pressure. It's a very serious thing, and it's caused by stress. And of course, a multitude of other factors like diet and exercise. But the fact that stress causes high blood pressure, that's something that you want to keep a close eye on. To continue to go down the list, stress also causes muscle tension, jaw clenching, stomach or digestive problems. This one is for the married people. Stress also causes trouble having sex. And last but not least, it causes a weaker immune system. So your body's ability to fight off disease and sickness is now weakened because you're simply stressed out. It starts off in your mind and then it's affecting your body. So that's terrible. We don't want to be stressed out. So that's why we have to ask ourselves, does it really matter? So in this episode, our points will actually be questions to ask yourself. So let's dive right in. I have 3 points. The first point or question is this really important? The second point or question is this worth my time? And here's the third and final point. Is the stress worth it? Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with point number 1. Is this really important? This is one of my favorite questions to ask myself. So sometimes we get involved in things or stuck with tasks that simply are not that important. And it's our job to make the distinction between the two. So I'm going to talk about myself again. Hopefully this will be beneficial to you. But this time as a producer, not a musician. I'm pretty sure you've heard me talk about myself as a musician. This is a completely different hat now. So I've been involved with things and people that were simply a waste of my time. Even to this day, I still get asked to be a part of these things that just aren't going anywhere and are unimportant. Thankfully, I have a better handle on it. I've grown to be a little bit older and more mature, so I'm aware before involving myself in this. So back to the story. So when I first started, I remember doing late night sessions, right? It'd probably start somewhere between 10 and 12. And these sessions will last until 5 or 6 in the morning. I'd work with some rappers and up and coming producers, literally walking out the next morning with a ticket stuck on my car because, we've been there so long. We've been there overnight. And of course, there's some sort of parking ban that takes place. You know how that goes in the city. But after all that hard work was done, do you know where those rappers and those artists and even those producers are today? I don't either. I'm not sure actually what they're doing. But they're definitely not working in music. That's for sure. Some may have changed careers. Others may still be pursuing music, but they're not serious enough, which is causing their careers to not take off. It's causing them to remain stagnant. Whatever the case may be, it was not important enough for me to waste all of those hours of my life that I'll never get back. It was not important enough for me to walk out at 5 or 6 in the morning, exhausted with a ticket on my car, causing me to now lose more money to pay for that ticket. Okay, so let's talk about you now, since I always talk about me, right? Have you ever been invited to something and the person or even the people who invited you, they made it seem as though it'd be the end of the world if you missed it? But then when you showed up, when you pulled up, right, you were disappointed because you wasted gas, you wasted your time, and you wasted an outfit showing up because it was not as important as they made it seem. I think we've all been there. The reason why you ended up at that event, at that party, or whatever it was that you were invited to, was because you didn't ask yourself, is this really important? You probably didn't ask the person or the people who invited you enough questions to gather enough details so you can make the decision within and say, is this important? Or is it something that I could sit out and work on myself? Or simply just chill? So that's a question to consider. Moving right along into point number 2. Is this worth my time? That's the question for point number 2. Now, to me, I believe that this might be the most important question to ask because time, again, to me, is the most important asset. We'll never get time back. It's so important that we spend it wisely. As I just mentioned in the first point, I can't get that time back that I wasted, working those late hours in the morning. And these artists, they've gone nowhere. Their careers have never taken off, and it probably never will. I'm not speaking that over them, but, at this stage in the game, we're a bit older. Focuses tend to change. People want to have families. It's almost impossible to do that stuff if you haven't started already. But that's besides the point. Let me jump back on topic. There's so many activities that we could spend our time on. I'll call these activities builders. These are activities that, help, that are more edifying for us. So some of these activities would be spending time with loved ones, spending time working on ourselves, spending time building a brand or chasing dreams, working on, our visions and goals. Definitely spending time with God or focusing on your faith. And just time working on our mental and emotional health. That's probably the biggest one. But then there are things that'll take us away from spending time on these important things, spending time on the builders. I'll call these things the spoilers, right? Don't forget the spoilers. So a spoiler can be anything that distracts you from building, such as small talk and conversations that lead nowhere, gossip, arguments, events that you didn't actually have to attend, at least not in person. Partying, that's a big one. I know everybody likes to party and have fun, but sometimes that's really just going to take you away. It's really not that important to party. There's always a time to celebrate, but really focus. Connecting with people who have no vision, that's a big one. That's a big spoiler. Connecting with people who aren't serious, connecting with people who are fearful, or folks who don't stick to their words. These people can really bring you down. If they're fearful and they're not pursuing their dreams or their goals, then how much more, if you're linked up with them. There's a saying that says birds of the same feather like to flock together. So if somebody on your left side and on your right side, if these two people are losing, then you in the middle, it's like you either have to get away to rise, or you might just be going down that path with them. Sometimes you're strong enough to uplift both. I wouldn't recommend trying to do that. You might have to just fly solo for a little bit. There are even certain tasks at work that are just not worth your time. Let's shift gears a little bit to the financial world. So those of you who worked in the financial world or finance will completely understand and agree. For some reason, it seems to be inevitable that you'll be assigned to do a task to complete at work that is simply not important or a priority for that matter. During this time, you'll have outstanding tasks that are actually more important that need to be completed. So now it's up to you, once again, to decide which ones are important and complete them first. This can be stressful if you allow it. So it's actually a really good segue into the third and final point/question, which is the stress worth it? Now, I will suggest that 100% of the time, the stress is not worth it. We've heard the saying, pressure makes a diamond, God picks the strongest soldiers for his toughest battles. While that's cool, to try to uplift, one another and say, oh, you got this, you're strong, you can get through it. I would not recommend stressing yourself to be better. Yes, it can build character. That's fine, and of course we'll get into some stressful situations and we'll have to handle that. But stress is never worth it. We just opened the episode and I shared with you some of the effects that stress has on our bodies. It's not worth tearing down our bodies from the inside out, ultimately, to get to that next level or even to please others, because sometimes that's what it ends up being. It's about people pleasing. So make sure that, you're taking care of yourselves and you're not stressing too much. But yes, as I mentioned in the second point, if you allow it, your job will stress you. But stress is definitely not worth it. So let's take you back to the financial world, right? As you may already know, if you've been listening to this podcast from day one, my field in college was finance and business, right? That was my backup plan for the musician/producer life, just in case the gigs weren't coming or the clients weren't showing up. So now I'm sure you can apply this to anyone who has to report to a supervisor. So let's say our workday ends at 5 p.m., right? I think you see where I'm going with this. The supervisor would show up at 4:30 p.m. with a task to complete. Now, the supervisor would not specify how soon that task needs to be completed. As good employees, we might stress ourselves a little and try to complete it before the workday ends. I know that's something I used to do early on when I was a rookie employee in this field. The supervisor would show up and I would just work, like even put in overtime hours trying to complete that task. And something I recognized was that it's really not worth the stress. It's not important and it's not worth the stress of, devoting an additional hour of my life that I'm never going to get back to complete a task that could wait until the next day, maybe even 2 days, but that was something I had to learn. So yeah, as good employees, we might stress ourselves trying to complete it before work. But then there's that employee who's still good, but has come to that realization that not everything is worth stressing about because it's not important. So this was me probably year 5 or 6 into my career, where things began to sort of click. And I recognized that I often was the only employee putting in such efforts while the others would, sort of be cruising along. And I was just like, well, why is it that they can get away with that, but I'm literally working myself until I'm feeling sick? So yeah, use your own discretion. Obviously, I'm not telling you to be an unruly employee at your job. That's not, those are not the principles that I would like to push. Definitely be a good employee. What your supervisor will request for you to do it. But also make sure that you're not stressing yourself. Make sure that it is not unimportant, and that, the task that is at hand is something that can either wait, or if it has to get done immediately, then you just have to make that executive decision. I'm going to say one more thing, and it's probably going to sound very entrepreneurial. So those who are not entrepreneurs or creatives might sort of listen to this and say to themselves, well, that doesn't really apply to me. But if you are an entrepreneur or creative, or you simply just have that bigger vision, for expansion in your career or what it is you do for your purpose in life, this might be for you. So I'm pretty sure like that by now, we're all aware that jobs or careers aren't who we are, but rather it's what we do. So you can always change a job. You can always change your career. But the lasting effects that a job or even your career might have on you, on us, is going to take more time to heal. Think of it this way. You could work at a job, and I'm pretty sure we've all heard this. You can work at a job for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. The minute things change at your job, maybe you fall ill and you have to quit, or you have to retire, you have to go into the hospital, whatever the case may be, the job is not going to take in consideration all those years you were working. They're just going to look for somebody else who can do your job while you're not there. I'll say this again. They're going to look for somebody else who can do your job while you're not there. And it's not going to take very long to replace you either. So we're going to have to make that choice and ask ourselves, these 3 questions once again. Is this really important? Is this worth my time? And is the stress worth it? If you've answered no to all 3 of those questions, then don't put yourselves into these situations that's going to cause your body to be torn down from the inside out. Before you do it, ask yourself, does it really matter? Thanks for listening to this podcast. I hope it blessed you and I hope it encouraged you. Hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to share this. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with people you don't even like. Share it with that person who keeps bothering you for advice. I got you covered. And lastly, if you'd like to connect with me, just click the link in the description for all of my content. I have some great things in store for you. Thanks for tuning in. God bless.